Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you've been stuck about how to get clients and how to grow your audience, you're going to love my free From Crickets to Clients series, taking you through how you can use a freebie funnel formula to make more sales. Don't worry if you're not super tech savvy. This breaks down for you how to get started when it comes to nurturing your audience, finding your audience, and giving them a quick win up front to build trust so that they want to work with you and you're building desire for your offer. So if you're curious about how all this works, you can go to haileyrowe.com/live event, all one word, and get the series instantly. Can't wait to hear how it goes for you. Today, we're going to talk about the one simple thing that most entrepreneurs and coaches will not do. But if you do this thing, you will grow faster, you will increase your income, and you'll make more of an impact in your business. And that thing that we're going to be talking about today is evaluating. And I'm going to explain to you a couple of real transformations that have happened both for myself and my clients from evaluating every single week. And I'm going to also talk about how you go about this process, because I think the reason why some people don't do it is they just don't know what to be evaluating, where to start, how do they know if they're on the right track or not. Or the other reason that I think people don't do this is because they think it's too small to matter. They think, oh no, I just gotta throw myself into action and only be in action, and evaluating means slowing down. But really it means slowing down so that you can see how to speed up. So evaluating actually is a super important skill in entrepreneurship. And what I don't want is for you to spend, every day in thinking mode, planning mode, evaluating mode. But I do think on a weekly basis, it's incredibly valuable to evaluate. I think after certain events you do, or discovery calls you do, or business courses you take, or things like that, it's important to evaluate along the way so that you're not having what we call time slip away from you, right? We always hear people say, oh my gosh, the time just got away from me and I don't even know how I got here, and I don't even know, why I haven't grown and what's missing from my business. And that's because, I truly believe it's because of skipping evaluating. And the third reason, so the first reason why people don't evaluate, just to kind of recap, is they don't know how, which I'm going to teach you in this video. The second reason they don't evaluate is because they think it's too small to matter, or they don't have anything worthy of evaluating, which is not true. Everything that you're doing or not doing is worth evaluating, because there's a reason you're either doing what you're doing or avoiding action. And we need to dive into that to figure out how we can solve it. And then the third reason why people don't evaluate is because of their fear of the mental beatdown they're going to give themselves for feeling like they didn't do enough, or feeling like this is stupid, or they made stupid choices. And that is not the mindset or the hat that we want to wear when we are evaluating. When you're evaluating, you want to come at it with a data-driven mindset, a science-based mindset, a studying yourself mindset, a coach of yourself mindset, or how you'd sit with a therapist or your best friend and kind of reflect on the week. That's how you want to reflect with yourself. And if you're afraid of, evaluating because you think you're going to sit down and say and write down, oh my gosh, I went to bed too late, I procrastinated, I scrolled social media, I'm a loser, I'm never going to figure this out, and that's the spiral you go down. That does not mean avoid evaluating. That means that you are approaching evaluating with the wrong mindset, and we have to dive into how can you flip that to become more solutions oriented so you can have the life that you want. The life that you want comes from shifting into solutions mode, empowering yourself each week, staying with your eyes and ears open to what you're doing, how you're behaving, the habits you need to form, things like that, paying a lot of attention. And evaluating allows you to pay attention. So before we go into how to evaluate, let's just talk about the benefits, because I truly want to sell you on the process of evaluating. In the inner circle, there's several ways we evaluate. We evaluate every week, so we have weekly reflection questions so that we're staying on the right track. Ooh, my desk is moving. Sorry. Okay, I have a stand-up desk, and I clicked the button, so I apologize for the loud noise. And we're back in action. So we evaluate our week. We evaluate our launches. So I have a launch eval sheet that allows us to keep getting stronger each launch. We evaluate our discovery calls with what went well, what didn't go well, what kind of objections came up, what did they say, why do we think that it went that way, things like that. We evaluate through tracking your income, the number of offers you're making each week, things like that. So it's really a part of each thing we do in marketing and sales. But on a personal level as well, you want to pay attention to your life and not live on autopilot. So one of the key benefits to evaluating is it prevents you from drifting away from your goals or forgetting them or having them not be top of mind, and then letting easy, your attention every week is getting pulled in a million directions. You're being told you need to, society is telling us we need to do more, we need to be better, we need to have that fancy house, we need to have that fancy trip, things like that. And if you don't take control of your own evaluation process weekly and pay attention to your life and pay attention to your journey and the track you're on and what your values are and what's truly important to you, you'll get sucked into what everyone else wants of you, is telling you you need to do or be, or what you need to have. So the first benefit of evaluating is really it keeps you focused on your goals. It keeps you from drifting. It keeps you also from going into all or nothing mindset, because it's a weekly thing. It's not something where it's like the diet starts on Monday or the business program starts on Monday, and so I have to be perfect every day, or else. It's more like this is an evolving weekly process I'm going to do with myself to build my skills, build my trust with myself, build my self-awareness, build the habits that I want to have. And it even makes room for error. Like, one of the parts of evaluating is looking at, where can I level up? Where did maybe I have a mindset block that came in and caused me to act in a way I didn't want to do? Things like that. So it really keeps you focused. And the other benefit of evaluating is it allows you to enjoy the journey. Okay, so here's the thing. Many of you who are entrepreneurs, you're stepping into the unknown. And it's a journey where each week you're going to have ups and downs. There's up and down cycles in business. There's times where you're going to have a ton of sales because it's a certain time of year, or you're doing a launch or something like that. And then you're going to have times where it's crickets, not because you're doing anything wrong necessarily, but because, there's just a down cycle in your business. And it may be because there's things you can tweak, but sometimes it's also just observing, oh, wow, interesting. Without even trying, June is like my biggest month of the year. I wonder why that is. I wonder how I can milk that and learn why that month is going so well, things like that. So the point, though, that I was trying to make is evaluating allows you to say, if I'm burning myself to the ground each week and I don't want to do these evals, and when I sit down to do them, I'm looking at myself just like hustling and not enjoying anything and not having balance and neglecting my children and things like that, it allows you to course correct. Because here's the truth, on any journey you go on towards your goals, how you get there, meaning the process you follow to get there, is how, when you arrive, you're going to be there long term. So example, if you dread the process, always feel like you're never making enough money. We were just talking about this on my group call tonight with a money mindset expert. We brought in a guest, and she was saying how, when you are feeling lack, feeling like it's never enough, it doesn't matter. Once you get to your goals, you're still going to feel like it's not enough, just because that is your way of being, and that is, there's always something more, and you have this mentality to worry about money. And how you get there is how you'll be there. Or if you're hustling your way there, and then when you get there, you don't want to keep hustling, but that's how you got there, and that's the only way you know how to get there, then you're going to feel like you have to keep doing that to keep up the revenue. So evaluating allows yourself to look big picture at your week and say, am I liking the process? Now, I want to add the caveat that you're not going to love every single business task you do. You're not going to feel like it every day. Motivation is not something required to still do your daily basics. But if you're noticing things like you're sacrificing things that are extremely important to you, like you're missing out on, very important life events or something like that, evaluating allows you to evaluate before you hit rock bottom. Before you hit a point where you hit burnout. You are being preventative by evaluating instead of reactive to your life. And that, I think, is so important, because if we get in this, I'm just going to see what happens and then I'm going to react, that leads to habits we don't want to reinforce. That leads to probably getting further and further away from our goals, versus evaluating is being proactive and preventative. It's about looking at your week and looking at the next week ahead and saying to yourself, okay, what opportunities do I see? Where did I maybe miss opportunities? What do I want to level up, etc., before you're in a state of like emotional despair, which is not a good space to be evaluating in. So that's another really important thing. If you're going to evaluate, make sure you're not in an incredibly emotional state. Make sure you're pretty neutral. You're having a good day. You're not doing it when you just got the worst news in the world, because you're going to make emotional decisions in that moment that probably are not the best. You're probably going to not be evaluating from a clear headspace. Okay, so the next benefit of evaluating is it allows you to look at your resources and become more resourceful. When you're evaluating, you can look at, how did I spend my time this week? How did I spend my energy this week? What did I worry about this week? Where was my money spent this week? Where was my money made this week? How was my money made this week? How did those clients who signed up this week find me? And that allows you to then, going forward, be much more resourceful about how you're using your resources, how you're spending your time in the future, how you are continuing to market, because you're probably going to market where your past clients came from. If they all came from Facebook, you're going to probably put more time there. But if you don't take the time to evaluate that and check that, then you're just sporadic, right? So if you want to be an intentional, deliberate person who feels like you are being proactive in your life rather than flying by the seat of your pants, this is a habit to reinforce, okay? So the other thing is, I use evaluation tools. There are tools out there that allow you to see how you're using your resources. So if any of you want to start evaluating your finances, there's apps that could track your spending and where you're budgeting your money. If you're trying to track your nutrition, there's nutrition logging apps. If you want to track how your time's being spent, I use Toggl, Toggl, to track where I spent my time for the week. And that was the thing that caused a huge breakthrough in my business, because one week early on in my business, I saw I spent 13 hours on content creation. And that was, and the content was not the thing getting me clients. My clients were coming from referrals, they were coming from talks I gave, but like my social media content was not my main source of clients. And when I saw that, I made a turning point. I was like, oh my gosh, why am I spending so much time on content when XYZ gets me the clients, and I should be doing more of that, more of my referral program, more of my guest talks, things like that. And it really caused me to pivot and use my time more wisely. And now I don't have to work as many hours a week as I did when I was spending so much time on content. Or I would see I'd spend so much time on content, but some of that time was comparing myself to others, going down a social media rabbit hole, things like that. So it allows me now, like I feel so in control around social media, where because I track my time and because I caught that, I now can redirect myself when I catch myself going down a rabbit hole or spending too long on a post or things like that. So evaluating allows you to be more resourceful about your resources available to you, your time, your money, your energy, what you worry about, etc. And do use apps for certain tracking, of things if you wanted to make this easier for yourself. Another app I use to track and evaluate is the Goal Streaks app. So I track all my goals and track how consistent I am. And also I'm able to define what is the frequency I want to do this thing that I'm evaluating. Is it something I need to do daily? Is it something I'm trying to just hit my 3 times a week target? Things like that. So the Goal Streaks app is really good for that because you'll be able to look over the span of a month, how many days did you have an X on? Meaning how many days did you follow the habit you wanted? And is that aligned with your target that you gave yourself? And the thing about tracking too and evaluating is that what gets tracked, honestly, without much effort, just starts getting improved. Have you ever heard of the phrase, where your energy goes, where your focus goes, energy flows? And I really believe that with tracking and with evaluating, it just gets you thinking more about your goals and what's important to you. And so naturally, you just start coming up with more solutions. You start realizing, oh, well, I know the path not to get to my goals is XYZ. You start noticing the habits you have that are misaligned. So tracking in and of itself, even if you strictly just track one habit you have for a week, I guarantee you will naturally start to improve it or naturally start to realize, maybe things that are stopping you from the habit or things like that, and just start to improve. The other thing about tracking and evaluating is you get out of this perfectionist mindset and you get out of living in delusion land. And the reason I say that is because if you don't track and you don't evaluate, you probably have in mind that one day you're gonna just be perfect. Like you're just never gonna overeat again, or you're never gonna miss your bedtime again, or you're never gonna miss a social media posting day again at some point when the time frees up, when the soccer season ends for your kids, when whatever the kind of excuse is, you have this thing like, one day I'll be able to just start and be perfect. But evaluating embraces the fact that you're gonna build. You're gonna start small. You're gonna evaluate how it went. You're gonna decide what's realistic for you each week separately, because each week is different of your life. Sometimes when you're evaluating and looking ahead at the week, you're gonna wanna commit to less workouts or less business time because there's something else going on that week, and you can adjust and you could say, well, with the limited time, how do I want to make the most of it? So evaluating and tracking allows you to naturally plan for life. You look ahead or you look back at the week and you say, what kind of lifey things came up and how can I now plan for that? How can I have a defense strategy, as Elizabeth Benton calls it, a defensive strategy to be ready for those obstacles instead of living in Delulu land, which is delusion land, which is no obstacles will never come up. I'll always feel like doing it. I just have to get my motivation right. I just have to start and then I'll have momentum forever. No, that is not how life works. Life will be lifey. So we need to plan for obstacles. We need to plan for things taking longer than we think. We need to look ahead at our week and look at what are the potential obstacles I need a defensive strategy about. And that's what evaluating helps you do. Another benefit of tracking and evaluating is that it allows you to notice your patterns to go get coached on. So if you have a coach and you run out of questions or you, feel like you don't know what you need coaching on and you're not the best at communicating your needs and your goals, evaluating and tracking gives you constant inspiration about what you need help with, what's holding you back the most, because you're looking each week at, wow, okay, so the truth is, it's not that I need more time for content. It's that when I sit down to do content, here's what happens, blah, 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 get coached on it, and then come up with a solution, right? But by looking at your life and being aware, you're able to get a real ROI on your coaching because you've been tracking and evaluating each week instead of just kind of guessing, oh, I think I need help with content creation, but I haven't really paid attention like what's going well with it, what's not going well, what I'm stuck on, things like that. The other thing about evaluating is it's kind of, how Instagram has insights now that they send you each month about your views, about how many new accounts you reached, things like that. If you have a business account, you get that every month, and it's pretty cool. It keeps you motivated. It keeps you excited. Like, you're able to look back at the month and you kind of get competitive with yourself. Like, when I get those insights on Instagram, I'm like, oh, I did better in July than June because June I missed X days of posting because I was underprepared, and here's why that happened, and here's why I'm not going to let that happen this month, and here's what I'm going to do differently. And I was able to evaluate my Instagram insights. But it got me motivated. Like, when I saw the bad numbers in June, I was like, oh, well, July, I'm going to be more consistent. And here's what I'm going to batch my content, blah, blah, blah. And it did go better. And then I got the insights. I'm like, woo, celebrating. So evaluating allows you to stay excited about the process, stay involved actively in your life, have your own Super Bowl and game day and like things you get competitive with yourself about, compared to looking at everybody else's life on social media and feeling behind or feeling like you're not good enough or whatever. It really shifts the focus. So now I'm going to share with you a couple things that I've noticed in my clients when they evaluate. So, and actually I'll start with my own life. So changes I've made, I scroll social media a lot less because I started tracking that, and you guys can track your screen time, or you can put in buffers to prevent you from going down rabbit holes with scrolling. Like, there's apps out there where you can set time limits on social media. So I scroll a lot less than I used to due to evaluating and noticing I was doing that too much. I go to bed a lot earlier. I used to go to bed at like 12 or 12:30. And when I sang in the wedding band regularly, now I just sub for them. But in the beginning of my business, when I was also singing in a wedding band all the time, my bedtimes on the weekends would be like 1 or 2 because I had to drive home. And so then the week would be thrown off and blah, blah, blah. But I've corrected my bedtime. It's now at like 11, which is really good for me. And sometimes if I'm really on track, it's 10:30, which is like mind-blowing for me. But anyways, I go to bed earlier, but I was able to do that because I was tracking and I was saying, why am I going to bed so late? Oh, I'm having dinner way too late. I didn't plan my day efficiently for the evening time, so on and so forth, and I was able to correct it. The other thing was, I have had times where I look back. So part of my evaluation process is looking back at the week and looking at what meetings did I have this week, and are there any loose ends with those meetings? So honestly, evaluating has probably made me thousands and thousands of dollars because I look back at the week and I see a call where I didn't follow up, or we needed to schedule our follow-up call for a discovery call, or it reminded me, it triggers a reminder to follow up with another person. It's just, when I review my week and my calendar, I'm able to not miss opportunities. There were times where things would slip through the cracks because I would have had a meeting on Monday and then I never looked back at my calendar for the week and realized, oh right, I was supposed to follow up with so-and-so on Friday. So follow-ups are huge, and I think that has really helped me in my business. by looking back at my calendar week and meetings and making sure nothing slips through the cracks. The other thing is I realize things I need to repurchase. This sounds weird, but when I do my weekly evals, I think about like, am I running out of anything? Do I need to get anything certain at the grocery store, or like skincare products or things like that? So this is kind of a weird one, but for some reason, when you pay more attention to your week and your life and you sit down to actually evaluate, you think of random things like, oh, right, I ran out of that supplement or whatever. So you can stay on top of that. The other thing is, as I mentioned before, you're able to rebalance things before you hit rock bottom. So example, there will be times where I feel like I'm overplaying or overworking. Like, oh, I had way too much fun this week. I didn't work very many hours. My work is fun, so I just want to add that. But like, there's times where I notice I get a little out of balance or a little off schedule, because as an entrepreneur, you guys have work-life freedom and you can schedule your own schedule and you have to be your own boss. And so if I notice a week where I wasn't that focused, or I notice a week where I was too intense and working too much, it allows me to say for the next week, okay, I'm going to rebalance. I'm going to make sure I am not, burning myself out, things like that. The other thing that tracking has helped me with is a sense of satisfaction that is very intrinsically motivated. So I don't need external things to pump me up. By evaluating, I'm like pumping myself up. I'm like, okay, here's what went well this week, Hailey. Good job on these things. Here's things where you could really, step it up, and here's why, and here's what we're thinking. But I'm not saying it from a tone of like, you suck. It's more like, okay, this is not the best. Here's what we need to do. So it's like coaching yourself, right? And I'm all for having an external coach to help you as well, and external support and accountability in that way. But you also, by tracking and evaluating each week, you become that person for yourself, so that no matter what, you have your own back and you trust yourself. Like, I never am thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I don't know what's gonna, I feel like, let me back up. As entrepreneurs, we need to create as much certainty and routine for ourselves as we can, because this journey has a lot of uncertainty and a lot of different directions you can go if you don't have structure. And by evaluating and having tracking and having a system for yourself to look at what you're doing, you give yourself that security. External things can't give you security. It's the thoughts you have about external things that give you that sense of security. But however, when you become the kind of person who trusts yourself and know that you always keep improving, that you always keep evaluating weekly, it's inevitable that you're going to be successful. It's just a matter of time. So it gives you this like self-trust. I have my own back. I'm not going to let anything slip through the cracks. I got this, compared to needing external things to be like, you got this, right? And you don't really believe it. We've all probably experienced that before. The other thing with tracking is we really have to track our wins. We have to evaluate our wins. What went well in the week? Because, and I typically recommend starting with that first, because that gets your brain out of, our brains are wired to always look at everything wrong. Everything going wrong, why are there so many problems, worrying about problems that don't even exist. And so by starting with the positive, you're just going to feel more satisfied and fulfilled in your life. When you look at your personal and professional life and you're intentionally creating it and evaluating each week, you're going to be happier. So I find that I'm living intentionally. I'm preventing wasted time by, if I don't evaluate and I have things that, I'm ignoring, that all bottles up, versus if I'm looking at it with the light on, it's not something I'm escaping from. It's not something that I'm building a deeper rock bottom for myself. It's kind of like how Dave Ramsey always talks about tracking your finances and like looking at it. Most people want to avoid it because they're going to be like, it's so scary. I'm not making as much money as I want, or whatever it is. But really, tracking allows you to address it. It allows you to feel more calm and relief because you're like, I know what's going on. Versus if we don't know what's going on and we're ignoring it and we're bottling it up, it's eventually gonna come to the surface it's kind of like trying to shove a beach ball underneath water. You can only shove it under there so long, and you have to keep pressing on it and pushing it under there, but eventually it's gonna pop up to the surface. And eventually you can't hold it down anymore. And eventually it's just going to be floating right in front of you, and you're going to have to face it. So you might as well start now before you hit even worse rock bottom, right? So that's important to consider. And the other thing with evaluating that's just a cool side note is you can get micro-focused with this. So I'm going to give you a macro-focused exercise you can use each week to evaluate your business and your life. However, if you have a certain skill or a certain goal, you can get real focused with this. You can change the questions to be just about that. So, you know what's interesting is when I wanted to have my first six-figure year in business back in the day, I wrote it down every day in present tense in my journal, and I evaluated every week about what was I doing to either contribute to growing my income and impact, or what was I not doing? What were the habits that are weakening me? What are the habits that are strengthening me? And that year, after writing it down every single day, staying focused on it, evaluating, I had my first six-figure year. So again, where focus goes, energy flows. So if you're taking guitar lessons and you are investing in a guitar teacher, you're going to want to look at the week, look at how much did I practice? What went well with practicing? What didn't go well? What do I want to ask my teacher next week? That's an example of how you can get micro with this. Obviously, insert your business goal instead of a guitar teaching thing, but you really could do this with anything. Okay, now I want to shift to talking about clients, and then I'll give you the exercise. So examples of client wins that they've had from evaluating is a couple things. One, they tell me, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how much time I was wasting on busy work. When they start to evaluate their time, they start to realize, wow, I spend so much time on making Instagram graphics or editing my website or doing things that are really not moving the needle in a sense that it's a client generating activity directly. And I realize they need to make more, room for my client generating activities, and they do. And we create their weekly business protocol, and then they shift to that. So that's a big observation I've seen, is that they feel like when they're able to look at their week and look at their time, they are shifting now to more client generating activities instead of the busy hustle work. The other thing that they tell me, or that I've seen with clients, is they are planning their day in a way where they trust themselves and they know how long things take. So instead of kind of inaccurately estimating how long things are going to take them, and or feeling like they look at the end of the day and feel disappointed by their list. Instead, they're planning a realistic plan. They're building momentum. They're focusing on things that matter, and they're feeling more fulfilled in their business and as an entrepreneur because they're not, living aimlessly. The other thing is, when they track their income or their email leads, or one of the things, we track a couple different things, one of them being offers made each week. And that can be offers made to their lead magnet or freebie. That can be offers made for collaborations, like them being on a podcast or connecting with someone locally. That can be free calls, like if they offer a discovery call, how many offers were made for that. Or it could be paid offers, like how many offers were made for their offer when they had a discovery call, or how did they make a paid offer in a webinar or something like that. So just by them tracking that, they start to, again, pay attention to the right things. And they also, the other thing that we track is wins in progress, and they get out of the all or nothing mindset. Rather than thinking, oh, I didn't, it's my first week in business and I didn't book a client this week, they're not thinking, oh, it's all wrong. They're thinking, oh shoot, holy moly, here's the progress I've made this week, and here's how much closer I'm getting to booking a client, because now I have my offer, now I have my message, we work together on solidifying my price, and now I actually feel confident about starting to go get clients. Because one of the questions I always ask them before they get clients is, what do you think is standing between you and your next client? And those are the things that we address so that they can feel confident getting clients and talking about what they do and putting themselves out there. So it gets them out of all or nothing thinking like I'm either worthy or unworthy as a coach this week because I either booked a client or I didn't. It gets them more focused on, hold on, what are the wins I'm building up? Why am I getting closer to booking clients? And then they actually go book clients because they're not in this all or nothing mentality where they start, they stop, they quit for a while, they feel bad for themselves, then they start again, all gung-ho, then they fizzle out, so on and so forth. We've all seen that on the entrepreneur journey. And the other thing I've noticed is they stop over consuming information and start actually implementing when they do these evals. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of great info out there. There's podcasts, there's webinars, there's meetup groups, and if you by evaluating, they start to realize when they're doing too much of that and not enough actual action. So a lot of them have realized, wow, I'm doing a lot more of actually what matters instead of these things that, seem cool to learn about, but I don't really need to learn it right now where I'm at. So those are just a couple examples, but there are, the other thing is mindset shifts. They realize like, wow, I did not do well in that sales call because I was thinking on the sales call, my program's not worth it, or I'm unworthy, or things like that. And so they catch certain mindset blocks as well with the eval process. Okay, so now let's give you an exercise you could do this week if you wanted to evaluate and keep improving your life. And here's one thing I just want to add. Every week, you're not going to be amazing. I have some weeks where I track my habits and I missed a lot of days. It didn't go that well, but I don't make that mean I have to start all over or I'm a loser or whatever. It's just I'm a human, and so I need to evaluate my human life and see what should I be doing differently, right? So when you do this, don't think it's just going to be a linear line from where you are right now to where you want to be. There's going to be great weeks where you do amazing. There's going to be weeks where you have a lot on your what to improve list, but that doesn't need to be made into beating yourself up. So the first question I want you to use when you're evaluating is to look back at your calendar for the week, look at your phone, mirror where your text messages are and your list, your to-do list and all the things, and ask yourself first, what went well or what did I accomplish this week? So who did I connect with this week? What kind of wins did I have personally or professionally this week? What were the progress builders this week? Like what went well or what did I accomplish? We start there because it's not because we just want to give ourselves a pat on the back, but because we want to do more and milk what's working, what's going well, what are you happy about? Let's do more of that, right? Instead of more of the Debbie Downer, everything going wrong. So that's the first question. The second question is, what do I want to level up or improve this week? Okay, so when I say level up or improve, what I mean is look at your calls this week with potential clients. How did they go? Where can you improve? How did it go explaining your offer? How much were you listening versus talking? So that's one example. Or if you leveling up or improving your habits. So look at what you did or didn't do this week. Did you scroll a lot on social media? Did you compare yourself a lot this week and you don't like doing that? Did you, not plan your day well, so you skipped a workout or you skipped a meeting that was important or something like that? Things like that. So what do I want to level up or improve this week? Sometimes it's as big as you saying, I need to level up. I need to stop complaining. I notice I've written that down in my reflections sometimes. Sometimes I notice I get on like a complaining spiral, and it's usually like a week before my period. And I catch that and I say, okay, yeah, we need to not complain as much. But sometimes it's as specific as say and like less next time you give a guest talk. I noticed in this one you did this week, you kept saying or yes or like so many times, and it was not good, right? So write down anything you want to improve, whether it's in your presentations you give, in your day job, with your kids, with your relationships, with your business. Whatever priorities or values are important to you, you evaluate what do you want to level up. And the thing here I want to give you advice on is to not pick, write it all down, but know that you're not going to improve every single thing you write down the next week. Pick your top 5 things you want to improve for the next week and put it somewhere where you're going to see it every single day, instead of doing this reflection once and then not calendaring it in, or not writing it down somewhere where you're going to see it more than just the one day you do this eval, and also not committing to improving every single thing you wrote down in the first week. Deciding that you're going to pick and prioritize what's most important, right? So where do you want to level up or improve? The next thing will be, what is top of mind for me right now? So this is the next question. What is top of mind for me right now? This is a great question to just see what's bothering you, or what did you neglect this week that is a project that you're feeling pressure about, or what's top of mind. Let your mind go anywhere at once. What's top of mind is, I want to plan a vacation, or what's top of mind is, I really need to focus on follow-ups with XYZ because I skipped that this week. Or what's top of mind is, my email inbox is freaking me out and I need to look at that, or whatever it is. So what's top of mind? What did I learn this week? So if you listen to podcasts, or you listen to books, or you're in a course, or just you're living your life, ask yourself, what did I learn? What did I actually remember from what I learned this week? Chances are, this one's really interesting because you're going to realize a lot of the info you consume does not stick with you. And so what I recommend to make the eval process easier at the end of the week is have a place in your phone where you can brain dump what happened during the week. What did you learn in a podcast? Jot it down somewhere, and at the end of the week when you do your evals, you can look back at that and put it all in one place and organize your thoughts and see what you want to do with what you actually learned this week, instead of it just being something you listened to and thought was cool, but you're not actually doing it. And here's the other thing. Again, prioritize. Everything you hear on a podcast this week is not something you're going to implement next week. You might put some of that stuff in a later list. This is something we do with my clients. We have a later list or someday list where it's stuff that's not really important right now, and we're saving it for later. So if you learn something super cool that you don't want to forget, but you also don't want to implement it right now because that would be a rabbit hole, put it on your later list after you do your evaluation. And then the last question would be, how many offers did I make this week? Whether that's, you can kind of track each separately. How many lead magnet or freebies did I do? And if you're curious about freebies and you're not sure what that is, or you feel like you need one in your business to grow trust and nurture people and book clients, you can get my free training about that. It's at haileyrowe.com/live training, all one word. And it takes you through how to make a freebie. How do you decide a freebie that people will actually want to sign up for? How do you use it to build desire for your coaching program? And that's available for you. But anyways, we track how many freebies, how many collab connections maybe do we make, how many free call offers do we make, how many paid offers do we make. And you can pick any one of those or track each one, but that's going to be important to know if you're moving in the right direction, because at the end of the day, how many sales you have it is really related to how many offers you make minus how many no's you get. And then the last thing I want to share is customize this process. If you want, add more positive questions. So if something did go well, you could ask, why did this go so well this week? How can I milk that next week? Or if you notice your brain looking at your eval and making up negative things, like, why is this so hard? Why can't I figure this out? Shift those to positive questions. What would I be looking up if I wanted to figure this out? What things could I try to figure this out this week? Or again, if you did make a sale or something like that, ask, why was making this sale so easy for me this week? What was the difference? What happened, right? So shift negative questions to positive questions. Tailor this process to how you want it to be for your life and your goals. And if you want to get micro focused on your evals, like just on your guitar skills, as we used as this example, or, you know, your whole life, personal life, professional life, things like that. I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you are looking for someone to help you see maybe your blind spots, you find yourself not feeling the best at evaluating, at looking at data about, you know, your business, or you're not sure what to be tracking, or you're not sure what order to go in, things like that. That's what I help my clients with in the Inner Circle, which is my small group private and group program, and in private coaching, and in the monthly membership, my Work Smart Marketing Club. So I have 3 offers. One is private coaching, where it's hands-on, one-on-one, getting you a customized plan for your business, having daily access to me for support. One is the Coach Inner Circle, which is private and group hybrid, meaning, you know, you're going to have a private onboarding call. You're going to get your next steps for the week in that onboarding call. You're going to have twice a week group calls. You're going to have access to me daily in a private client community. There's a lot of support in that. And then the last option is my Work Smart Marketing Club, which is a membership. It's a monthly membership. You can cancel at any time. It's $97 a month. We meet twice a month on a small group call. You're able to get coached, get your next steps, get my resources to help you with marketing, sales, time management, and mindset. So those are kind of the options. And if you're curious about any of those, you can go to HaileyRowe.com, book a free call. I'd love to connect with you, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful, and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.
If you've been feeling like getting clients is harder than you thought, and you're not even sure where to start when it comes to marketing, or you've been marketing for a while and it hasn't been working, I want to share with you a video from my clients. It's a compilation video of testimonials to show you what is possible when you put your mind to it, when you have a path, and when you have support. It is something that I want you to listen to with an open mind to realize you are capable of this too. Why not you? And if you are curious about my Fast Way framework that I use with clients to help them grow their clientele and establish their business online and locally, you can book a free consult with me at HaileyRowe.com if you're curious. I can't wait to chat with you, and I'll talk to you soon.
I think like if you're hesitant about working with someone, regardless of any business coach, I think just make sure that they're like a good fit for you and that they can actually follow through. Like look at their testimonials. Like, I don't know. I think like all the testimonials I've seen from people who've worked with you are like incredible because you're incredible. Like you have so much value to provide your clients. And that's like what I've experienced is that it's like 1,000 times been worth the investment, like by far.
I had this massive like injection of followers because I was showing up so consistently. I was showing up as an authority figure. I had I was really confident about what I offered, and I really knew exactly who I was speaking to.
Out of it, like I found, like I mentioned, my ideal niche, clients who are invested and who want your support as well as need it, which I think is so important. And then really branched out into like what was important to me was community and where I live. And now I have 2 corporate wellness companies that I work with on a part-time basis, but out of that, such a wide variety of potential clients too.
You were so great in just responding to like messaging stuff, website, you know, all of those pieces. It was like, I just felt like I don't know, it just gave me so much comfort in having your eyes on it and your feedback and having that partner to help me. Cause I felt like for me, those were blockers. I was like, my messaging is, I don't know, like what my offer is, and like, should I change it? You know, all these like sort of foundational pieces you need to move forward. I felt like I could just like boom, boom, boom.
But specifically, I'm just so blessed that I chose Hailey. You know, she changed my life. She changed my business forever, you know, and I'm still a client of hers. I'm still working with her 2 years later, continuously reaching new goal milestones every month. So I really encourage you to connect with her, to really listen to her. You know, I've seen and I've taken numerous other programs, past and present. You know, I do look around to see, hey, is there something else going on out there? And when I'm looking at it and I see it, I'm like, oh my gosh, Hailey already has that built into her program. She has it all built into one, like all of these different, you know, philosophies and tools and all of these things. You know, just the whole psychology behind it. She has it in her program. And not only does she have it in her program, she has it like an organized journey, which I really appreciated. So I didn't have to piece and part that stuff together. I didn't have to waste time figuring out, because for me, trying to figure it out took so much time, cost me so much money, and created so much stress.
I've taken a couple of free webinars online, you know, just trying to see what's out there. And a lot of them are bunk, not much information. But Hailey's, she offers a lot of information and a lot of really good things to get you going. So I have a lot of things on my list that I need to start going on, and very exciting.
And so when we worked together, I started my Facebook group. I started having more intentional posts on my Instagram. I got clear about the niche that I would like to help, and it took few attempts, but we got there. So she was very patient with me. And what I also liked about our work together is that she gives very good feedback on the materials that you provide her, very detailed, and with the good and the bad, and I felt like really taken care of.
If there are any coaches out there that are considering hiring a coach, if you're just starting your business, if you're into your business and just need a little bump, I highly, highly, highly recommend Hailey to get you there. She will see it through. She will hold your hand, guide you, ask you the right questions, push you when you need to be pushed, but she'll be there every step of the way.
And even with a small amount of time between a full-time job as well as then part-time coaching, she was always there to support, no matter how much time you had to put into your coaching position or where you needed to be and what your goals were. She knew how to get you there. So really cannot recommend her enough, like highly recommend.
Hey, thanks so much for watching that video. And if you want to connect directly to get my fast track strategy to your next clients, go ahead and DM me the word strategy, and I can't wait to share.